All right, guys. So episode 003. Is that right? All right, look at that. We're hauling ass. This is actually 05 if we really think about it. Because we did one, we screwed it up. Then we did one the other day that the audio was a little bit off. So, well, actually, what we're going to end up doing once we finish today's podcast, we're just going to add one particular clip. It's about a 30 or 45-minute clip on insurance, on basically the importance of knowing insurance and understanding how the homeowner's insurance works in real estate and why it's so important now. Why I didn't give a shit about it, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. It wasn't really on my radar, and why now it has to be. It's just the numbers have gone up so much that you just got to pay attention to it. But I'm not even going to get into it now because we go into it for a while, and we bring in Umberto from Insurance Nation, a huge insurance company, and we just let him loose, man. That guy drops the science, like they say, like kids say, on insurance and everything insurance. So
it was very interesting. It was a really solid piece.
It really was. I could tell when Cadillac's excited because he starts writing notes. He had like 2 pages worth of notes. So that's how I could tell, right? But today we're probably gonna piss 50% of the people off. All right, I would say it's fair. Today's subject on whether we think we should the economy be shut, the country be shut down completely 100%. I mean, everybody go home, essential business, my ass. Everybody, doesn't matter who it is, you're going home, or do we go a hybrid of maybe shutting some of the states down, the ones that are more infected, and maybe that type of stuff. So we are for sure. What I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, Cadillac, but what I've noticed, it's that there's a straight up line in the sand. It's Camp A versus Camp B, and at least with my friends, it's starting to get heated already. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, we shouldn't do this and we shouldn't do that. So, you know what? There's so much emotion involved in it. If you would have told me, when we were going to start this podcast that we were going to do like 5 episodes of coronavirus, first of all, I would ask you, what the fuck is coronavirus? Because that was before I knew what the hell it was. And then I would tell you, well, maybe we'll cover it once, but it's just impossible to not talk about it now. There's so much stuff going on. So it is what it is. We got to talk about it. I think we should talk about like what the stimulus package is going to look like. Sure. I think that, the difference between, what the economy would look like without it, that type of stuff. So, look, I'm gonna cut straight to the chase. Let's start pissing people off right now. Lives are super important. I don't want anybody to think that, I'm just overlooking and I'm picking money. And that's what I see the most. Well, you're picking money over lives. No, I'm not. This country has been through a lot of stuff. It's been through wars. It's been through, depressions. It's been through difficult stuff, and it's never shut down. I think that as a country, we can work through things. All right, be smart about it. Be careful about it. We could use our brains. We could, listen to the scientists and tell the scientists, look, closing down is not an option. Okay, how do we stay open? Versus let's close this shit down. And let me tell you why. And obviously I want your take on it. And we're gonna have at least one caller here that's gonna give their take. I'm trying to find somebody with the other take of we should shut it down, and I can't find anybody to go on record
that wants to go on the record. Yeah, no.
So if somebody wants to reach out to me and they want to be that person, then please do so. But if we're acting like if we shut this down, there's not going to be lives affected. If we got people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that are going to lose their job,
already have,
suicides are already part of our reality. Hundreds of thousands of people commit suicide throughout the year, every year in the United States. If we start adding, this type of hardship, people that are, just right there on the cusp, like barely made rent last month, made rent, single moms that are out there fucking struggling, man, struggling. And I'm a guy, I didn't come from money. I remember struggles. I remember wearing the same clothes every day. I remember, I never went hungry. I came from Cuba when I was a kid. I never went hungry. I don't remember a day where I went hungry. I could tell you that. It wasn't there. But man, I didn't have the stuff that I wanted. We didn't, our going out to dinner was McDonald's and whatever we could scrounge up, that type of stuff, especially when we just came from Cuba. And I remember, and I was a kid. So those types of people, the suffering,
sure.
We're talking about human suffering here, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about human suffering. How do we eliminate human suffering? How do we eliminate the loss of lives? Right now, if we spend a month doing this, there's people who are getting laid off, or the new word I heard now is furloughed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir. So let's use a restaurant, for example. If a restaurant stays closed for a month and it furloughs those employees, you could unfurlough them, right, or call them back after that month. 2 months passes by, 3 months passes by, who knows what the hell happened? They might have to go to a shelter. They might have to move into their parents. You lose those particular employees after a certain amount of time, right? What do those people do that are check to check? What do those people do that are out there literally, have enough money to eat, have enough money to feed their kids? Now the kids are not in school. Okay, kids are not in school. So I got a buddy of mine that's a principal, and I'm watching on his Instagram and all the social media stuff. There's kids, from his school that they still have to set up because their only meals for the day are from school, right? Oh, you've been there with me, Cadillac. Yeah. So those people now are struggling, right? Those people, I mean, is there suffering? They're still suffering now. So, I could talk about this all day. So I'm gonna get your take on it. What are you thinking, man? Like, I mean, is it a full shutdown? Does that eliminate human suffering, or are we ruining the economy, ruining businesses, having people suffer, and then still have, and I guess I wish we should have a medical expert here too, I guess, but
I think that, and that's such a big topic. I mean, as you're talking, there's like 20,000 things going through my head, but I think that the toll of loss of human dignity, when you cease to be able to take and provide for yourself, the loss of human dignity that there is with that, and the despair that comes with that, and what almost always follows that is substance abuse and all the things that entails, not just to the individual, but to their family, to their children, and all these sorts of things that create a downward spiral that has tremendous human cost in both lives of just not the individual, but their families that this affects. I think that as I look around, I mean, I was driving out of my complex the other day, and my complex has a gate. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if the gate guy wasn't an essential industry and this gate breaks, nobody can get out of here. Like to go to the store, or if there was a fire, or to let the fire engine in, like to shut everything down doesn't make any sense. I don't have any food in my freezer. I'm depending upon the store to have food. And restaurants, I go to restaurants, I go get pickup all the time now. Where does that go? How do you prepare the country for that? What if they don't have the money to go out and buy 3 weeks of food or 4 weeks of food? Well, how do you shut everything down?
And it just sets the wrong precedence, I think. And again, I know I'm pissing people off here. It is what it is. It sets the wrong precedent because what do we do next year? It happens again.
Something else happens. Exactly.
Or something else happens. The choice has never been to shut down. The choice has always been to adjust, figure things out. Okay. But I hear a lot of talk about this full shutdown thing, and let's just shut the country down. Guys, I just don't think that's an option.
I honestly, anyone that is saying that, I have never spoken to someone yet that has said that has actually taken into account the economic cost of doing that, the real lives that are being harmed. Because if you look at the death toll of this thing, it does not come close to things that we have baked into the cake, learned to deal with on a daily basis, including other illnesses. Now, this thing has a very high virility rate, but the actual mortality rate of this particular disease does not appear to be any higher than the flu. The only reason why we think it is right now is only because we see a limited number of people that have been tested. We haven't tested everyone that has coronavirus, but we have counted every death that exists against
the math
Corona.
is skewed, and that's the stuff I'm hearing from all these friends of mine, the guys that don't want to go on the record here, right? It's
The math is very skewed.
this much, and then well, here's another one that really pisses me off. Oh, overnight there was another 100,000 cases. Just to throw a number out there. Okay, dummy. Maybe it's because 100,000 testing kits got there, and now they're testing people.
Maybe 400,000 kits got there, and they found 100,000 cases. Exactly.
Whatever. So it's not like, well, if you tell me, all right, well, now we're like forcing the whole country to test themselves, and it went up a certain amount. But no, and I told them, hey, guess what? Everybody has it. I mean, this is so contagious that there's a chance that everybody here has it, and everybody who you're in contact with has it. They're talking about some people have no symptoms to little symptoms and everything like that, you know? So, guys, again, I'm a very proud American. I consider it un-American to do what it's been. I keep hearing people pushing for this whole shut down the country, shut everything down. I don't think that's realistic. I just don't think. I think it's also, you know, we have to worry about, you know, the young people that are looking at these actions right now, right? And sure. and our future president is in high school right now, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Or he's in junior high, and he's seeing how everybody's just shutting down and everybody's just going. I just don't. The United States has always been. How many people died in World War II?
For the United States?
Yeah,
480 some odd thousand.
And in the world, it was 75 million. You know.
No, it was a huge. Worldwide, it was a huge number. I mean, the Russians lost well over 1 million people.
Right. So when these wars are going on and we're losing people, right? That's the worst possible situation. War is the absolute worst possible situation out there. It doesn't exist. There's nothing uglier. There's nothing more aggressive. Sure. There's nothing that changes a country. And the country was open for business during all of that.
More so than ever. The economic miracles pulled off by this country in that war were it's one of the most patriotic things you can do is read about it if you want to feel good about being an American. They were turning out a plane every hour from one factory. That's just insane. So America has an amazing ability to cope when things get hard. But the problem is they haven't instilled a desire for patriotism or anything like that. What they've done is instilled fear. They're peddling in fear, and it works. The ratings of the news media is way up. Everybody is into this and interested in this. And what are they going to do? They're going to take and tell you the best possible numbers. I mean, let me throw one out there for you. In Wuhan, where this thing started, how many deaths were there?
I have no idea.
It's 60, 80,000, something like that, out of 60 million people in Wuhan. 60 million.
That's probably one city block.
Yeah. And so, like,
it's a 1,000-story building.
I mean, guys, the problem is there, and this is an endemic problem in society right now. We have run away from context. We don't look to get a context for understanding what we're talking about. Is there any precedent for this? How has it gone before? You know, so that we have the ability to react appropriately. What we do now is overreact to everything. And realistically, that makes us less smart and less able to take and deal with things wisely and well. We are overreacting to everything, and true virtue is actually a balance of everything. When you overreact or underreact, it is not the best possible solution. And we're always looking for the best possible solution so we can live the best possible life. Anything short of that, we're cheating ourselves. And right now, a lot of people are being cheated out of things that they could be working hard to achieve for themselves, is what I see.
Well, look, here's another thing. So as a parent, okay, I'm seeing the stuff that's going on right now. Like, my kids are waking up and doing their work, you know, and they're being thrown into this whole homeschooling world, okay? What's going to happen? I mean, what if they're talking about the next 9 weeks are going to be like that? So now we're affecting basically a whole generation's education. Because you know what? At least I can control these elementary kids. High school kids, man, I tell you what, forget about it. You know, those guys are not listening to anything. They're not paying. I heard something about 15,000 kids that are not even showing up to it, or, you know, something crazy. We're not going to see the damages to this for couple years from now, maybe a year from now. The stuff that has gone wrong from just 1 month or 2 months of this of the country being shut down, you know? And now there's states that are at 0 deaths and they're still shut down, right? And they're still, you know, social distancing and everything like that. So can we have a little bit more common sense? Does everybody have to be treated? Should we treat New York? Now, listen, New York's out of hand. Got to take control of it. Understood. High density situation, right? I mean, we're talking about, it's almost like a China.
Sure.
You know, so we got to be a little bit more careful with that. But you know what it's going to do? It's going to take the country. How many trillions of dollars is going to be pumped in now?
Well, right now we're at about 7, and they're looking at least 10.
Yeah.
And so what that's going to do, realistically, the death toll from this, from old people that aren't going to be able to afford, people that are on fixed incomes that are not going to be able to afford their drugs because of this, that's the real death toll. Because to pay for this, I mean, all those folks that are a fan of socialized government, congratulations, you've got your wish. Almost everyone's on the government teat.
Yeah.
And we had to spend $10 trillion to survive a month or two. All right. It took us it took us 200 plus years to get to 20 trillion, 2 months to get another 10 trillion on the books of debt. The reality of it is what supports this thing is the ideas and the innovations of people. And we've taken that out of the mix. I know for myself right now, I had a particular type of financing that we were looking to do on some properties that we have. They've shut that down entirely until this is done.
Yeah.
Now, what was I going to do with that money? I was going to take and reinvest that money in other ideas and other projects we had going forward. The world is now deprived of that. That is a lost opportunity that this period of time is now lost. That won't come to fruition. And so who loses for that? Society in general.
Yeah, look, and I gotta I have to step back and remove myself from this, right? To be responsible. Okay, I'm not usually responsible, but we have to be responsible at least for this exercise, right?
We have a microphone. It's important to be responsible.
Exactly. So you step back from it and you go, look, forget about, and you really do have to. You know, you have to eliminate the whole. You know, you can't worry about yourself. You can't worry about your business. You can't worry. You got to really worry about society because at the end of the day, society has to function. Our world has to function in order for anything to function. In order for a small business to function, society has to function.
Sure.
You know, we can't have Miami falling apart. We can't have Florida falling apart. We can't have the United States falling apart, and then your business function unless your business is generated from things falling apart, right? But so you got to step aside from that, and you got to just say, all right, human suffering versus human suffering. How do we value that, right? How do we value and again, I know every life's important, right? But how do we value a 90-year-old person that was in a nursing home, right? That suffering and that family suffering versus a single mother, and I keep on mentioning that because I know the single mothers out there that are that have 2 kids, 3 kids, that are working 2 jobs, trying to figure this thing out. Maybe right before this, cried themselves to sleep for like 3 days in a row because shit's tough. It's tough out there, and they're trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden, this happens, right? They've begged their landlord, please, I'm never going to be late again. Right. And all of a sudden this happens, that type of stuff. So those are the things. Right. What was the suicides were something like 250,000. Did I send it to you this morning or no? Something like 250,000. You know what? Let me pull that up real quick. That's an interesting statistic. Hey, you want to call Richard? Did you text him already, by the way? See if he's available? Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's available. Yeah, I'm texting him to come on. So here.
I think that as you're watching this, the fallout has to be measured, and somebody's going to have to take and make that determination. And you can already see them lining up the pitchforks when the decision gets made. Whatever. There's always going to be a Monday morning quarterback on
Absolutely.
Everything that's done, and there's always a better way that somebody else should have done it. And this is unfortunately the society that we've come into. And we become, and I've mentioned this before, we become a more risk-averse society than we were before. The ability to take risks and measure and mitigate risk is what has made this country great. We took risks that other people really weren't willing to take and made them work. And so this creating of a generation that's more afraid than their previous generations, and this, I think, is going to go further. As you said, is going to further this. We didn't used to have pictures of kids on milk cartons. Now, statistically, there's less crime in the United States now than there was in the 1970s. In the 1970s, your kids came home and said, go out and play down the street. Now, everybody's like, don't you walk out the door.
Yeah.
The bad man's going to get you.
I tell you what, my kids only ride bike if I could see them. And man, I used to wake up in the morning and leave on my bike and not come back. I would come back for lunch, leave again, and come back at night. So is that the society changing that much? Has it led to this? Has it led to the point where we think it's okay to shut everything down, not to adjust, not to think, hey, man, we went through 2 wars, right, and continue to work, right? No, we got to shut it down. This is it. That's it. Nobody go to work. No. People, who are the ones that are being affected? Where are they being most affected? Okay, so 60 plus, let's call it. Call it 50 plus, okay? Some of my friends are going to fall into this. All right, so let's call it 60 plus. 60 plus, stay home, okay? Pre-existing conditions, stay home. These particular states, a little bit more strict of a curfew than these, okay? Maybe restaurants can open for a certain amount of time. I mean, we figure it out. We figure it out. We adjust and we continue on, right? Also, press, guys, seriously. I mean, it's
fear mongering at this point.
You gotta be careful. The press out there has to understand that it's not all about clicks. It's not all about viewers. This is like real social damage that's being done. If we are blowing something up, okay, more than it's supposed to be, okay, you know, and again, guys, I'm not a doctor. You're right. I'm not there in the front lines in New York and seeing the bodies and everything like that. You're 100% right. I'm not pretending, right? That and I'm also not saying don't take New York very serious, super serious. I'm saying take it very serious. If we got to shut that down, then that's fine. But it's not the whole country. We adjust, right? And what are there? 4 states right now that are hit really, really hard.
Yeah, you got New York, you've got
California.
New Jersey is hit hard, and Connecticut. The 3 of them are hit hard. California, Washington, and I mean they're saying Miami-Dade County and Broward, but I mean I looked at the numbers the other day.
It was 50 deaths.
It was like 1,000 out of 1.9 million residents in. I mean 1,000 infected.
Infected, yeah.
Out of 1.9 million residents. Again, you know, it's the problem is. The fear mongering has taken over, and we're so ready to be afraid of everything. We're afraid of our own shadow, as opposed to being a courageous and hardy people, a people that, yeah, we can get through this. I mean, my father's generation went through the Great Depression and World War II, and they survived. I mean, we're talking about 20% unemployment for a good reason. There were huge social issues that caused this. You know, we had any little hiccup happen, and we're devastated. We need a safe space and a cry room. Well, and it doesn't make for good, balanced human beings that are able to cope with life. Because guess what, guys? We have a skewed view of life in this country. Life is much harder than what we see most of the time. This is a little bit of Tuesday in most of the rest of the world. You know, we get a break here. We have, you know, modern medicine and all sorts of things to help us out. The rest of the world, they call this Tuesday. This is no big deal.
Tuesday.
You know, so I'm not saying, you know, Western Europe, but it's almost kind of like everybody else is looking at what everybody else is doing, and nobody wants to be the person that's doing less than the other guy.
Yeah.
Oh, they closed down this. Oh, gosh, we better close down this.
The UK is kind of doing that. The UK is saying, well, let's
a little bit, but they've actually kind of gone back on that some now too. Yeah. I mean, Boris Johnson has it. I mean, it's interesting what's going on there. But even the numbers from there, where they kind of let it run its course, they are way different than what they projected. They had these horrible projections of what it was going to be. They went from 500,000 to 20,000 was the adjustment. That's a little bit of an adjustment, from 500,000 deaths to 20,000 deaths projected. That's a big difference, guys. And I mean, but this is what we're buying into.
Yeah, but again, look, you know, and I'm replaying, you know, hey, there he is. You son of a bitch. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm trying to find a more flattering angle.
Yeah, no, listen.
You look good from all angles, brother.
Listen, the reason why I'm sitting here is because my other angle is fucking horrendous. So trust me. Hey, were you listening in for a while or what?
Yeah, I started hearing the rest of the world calls this Tuesday. That's pretty funny.
So Rich, look, man, we're in a chat. We're in a chat together. You know, I try to get Calvo on here, by the way.
No, he won't come on.
Yeah, so he could represent.
That's all keyboard warrior.
so he could represent his side of the story. So I really want to get somebody in here that could I don't know if you could play devil's advocate. I mean, you've been playing devil's advocate with me as my attorney for since 2006. So if you want to play devil's advocate and give us a reason, a logical reason why you think that this whole thing should be shut down for 2 or 3 months, whatever the things that they were proposing, and really bring this country into bankruptcy. You know, is there anything that you could bring that makes sense on that end of it?
You know, the problem is it's all in how you phrase the question. So when you provide a conclusion like that, like, you know, close it down for 2 or 3 months and put the country in bankruptcy, not that would not be the result, but obviously it makes it very difficult to come up with a reasonable response because the question
frames the answer.
Answering like an attorney.
You know? Now, I can tell you that, you know, I think I understand the general, you know, position, which is that when you look at things from a strictly medical perspective, right, and you take into account no variables other than how to stop the spread of the virus, I think that you are led inescapably to the conclusions that the world's leading experts on the subject are recommending, or should I say, were recommending almost without exception. Now, there are many exceptions, right, to the strictest lockdown recommendations, right, given by other experts, sometimes the same experts. But, you know, initially, based on what you knew, I don't think that medically, when you're saying human life, the preservation of human life is of, number one, utmost and uncompromisable importance, and two, analyzing strictly the medicine and the science, yeah, I think that you arrive at, you know, the recommended procedures. Okay, the problem, I think, that unfortunately you can't put a voice, you can't really say it, is that governing is an abstract business. So as a governor, right, much like President Trump, I know he's the president, but as a governor, a person who governs, you don't have the luxury of just looking at it with one defined set of variables. You have to add in all the variables. You have to, so, you know, you have to, when you're making decisions about what to do, you know, you're not able to just focus on the medical ideals. Okay, that's, I think, the more practical view. Now, the other thing I'm hearing from that, you know, quote, camp, as we put it, is
those guys.
You know, yeah, those guys, is that you know, there's one guy in particular, honestly, that I'd love to have on, is a guy named Lauren Burns.
Can we get him?
You don't know him, but he's I don't know if we can get him, actually.
Text him.
We can try. Let me see. Hold on one second.
We need somebody from. I really want somebody from the other side to the other side, from that camp.
And I gotta tell you,
that what?
Can you join a podcast and talk about the?
Yeah, the so, you know, and again, what that concerns me. What's interesting about this is that this has become political. It's like you're that side and you're the other side, you know, and that's even more proof that it's media driven, right?
Of course.
So if you're on CNN or if you're on Fox News or if you're on CNBC, your opinions might vary, right? And it just shows you.
So let's.
Yeah.
Well, let me just chime in right there on some things that.
You're frozen. Well, let me finish my thought while he unfreezes himself. So that's more evidence right there that this is very, you know, news driven. So I force myself to go on all of them, all the social, all the media platforms and everything like that, and get all the information. Are you back, Richard, or no? You're still frozen. I think we lost him. Yeah, we totally lost him. I don't know. He's there again. Are you unfrozen? No. I could see him frozen, and then he speeds up. So, you know, it's so to, you know, my message to the press, right? We got to be real careful moving forward. How you know, like the other day they were reporting on China's numbers, right? Like comparing them to our numbers. How the fuck do you know that China's giving you the real numbers? What are the chances on earth that China's actually giving you a real number? Hey, you're back?
That's where.
No. Yeah, hey, I got a better one for you on the China and the numbers. I got a better one for you. Okay, so the World Health Organization, okay, that everybody loves now. Okay, nobody
knew it existed. I didn't know it existed, to be honest.
No. I know. But all the lefties, they love the World Health Organization now. And it's an outrage that Trump rejected World Health Organization tests, right, when this thing started. And the World Health Organization, okay, if you guys Google right now, World Health Organization tells everyone coronavirus not contagious, you will go to an interview on January 15th where the head of the World Health Organization took to the screen and told the world that we didn't have to worry about coronavirus because people couldn't transmit it to each other. And do you know where they got that data? They got data from China. So this all adds to your point about the media-driven, you know, spectacle on this thing, which is that you hear the media and they want to praise the Chinese response to this. They want to say, no, the Chinese, they really got ahead of it. They locked people down in Wuhan. You know, they reacted immediately. The Chinese lied about the virus even existing. Yeah. And then they lied about who had it. And then they refused to let our doctors in. I mean, it's insane. And then they told the WHO that it wasn't contagious. I mean, it's a level of insanity, and now we're supposed to trust their count.
Well,
I mean, it's absurd.
Richard, let me ask you a question. I mean, because, you know, this might be rhetorical. I'm not sure. Is there any context we have for thinking that China might be, in any previous dealings, be somewhat less than 100% truthful? Is there anything to lead us to believe that that could be the case, that they may have lied about something at any time previously?
Oh, I don't know, 100 years worth of, you know, foreign political interaction, maybe. Yeah. I mean, they're communist China. They're just, I mean,
it was 100 million people.
Haven't historically been a source of good intel.
You know, Richard, I want to bring you up on something. Before you got on, we were talking about, right? Because, you know, what we're trying to avoid here is human suffering, right? We're trying to avoid human suffering here, but is there any more human suffering than World War II, World War I? I mean, wars. I mean, real wars. I'm not saying any other wars are not real. I'm talking about wars that just changed the world, right? When all that stuff was going on, the United States was still open for business, right? There were people who were dying daily. The whole, I mean, it's, and I understand that war is not contagious. I know what you're saying, but the point is that we were different. I think we were different as a country back then. We were trained, or we were prepared to fight adversity and just to tough through things. And right now, I don't see that. I see it as more of a, hey, instead of trying to figure out how we're gonna figure out the solution, hey, Mr. CDC guy, okay, listen, I understand you want to save as many lives as possible. So do we, but we need to find the middle ground here that we could save as many lives as possible and still be open for business, because more lives, or as many lives, will be lost through suicides, through alcohol deaths, related deaths, drugs, opioids, all that kind of stuff. So it's not just a clean slate. It's not like you just shut it down and we're saving lives. No, we're also affecting lives. So, you know, how can we be so different from World War II right now, where we could barrel through that, and right now we got to shut down? That's the part that confuses me, you know?
Well, because it's 80 years of relative prosperity, you know, and it's like everything else. So if you spend, let's say, the first 15 years, 20 years of your life running barefoot on hot concrete, I'm serious, barefoot on hot concrete, you are going to develop very strong, callous feet bottoms. Like, you could then walk on glass probably without issue. But then if all of a sudden you're rescued from that life and you know, for the next 30 years, 40 years, in our case, 80 years, you're in the finest Italian merino socks, and shoes. Your feet are going to get soft. It's going to get to the point where you can't, step outside without feeling like you're walking on Legos. So,
dude, fucking Legos hurt. Whoever stepped on a Lego knows. Those things hurt, man.
On a Lego, so it's like, that's the problem. We've become, and again, and listen, you don't have to look at our response to pandemics. It's like, look, there was, you could pick any number of battles in the Pacific during World War II, when we were losing 100,000 men a day.
Iwo Jima, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't lost 100,000 men since the start of like the war, I think, in the Mideast. I mean, obviously somebody's fact checking me, but if you Google it right now, I don't know that we've lost anywhere near right the amount of guys. And yet, if one soldier gets killed, and rightfully so, it's one soldier too many. I firmly believe that, but it gets a lot more traction. 80 years ago, try going back 80 years and pulling somebody aside who's reading the newspaper and say, imagine that 80 years from now, when we're at war, if one soldier gets killed, it'll be on the front page of this paper. And the guy will look at you and be like, really? Because like my brother and all his friends, blown away yesterday, and that's not going to make the paper, and so we've become acclimated to a different kind of life and a better life. And Absolutely. So what happens is, when all of a sudden you kind of get these gigantic reversals that also equalize the playing field, right? Because this is affecting everybody the same way, the rich, the poor, in terms of the susceptibility to getting the virus. The difference is it's very easy for rich people and people that work on keyboards and in air conditioning to sit around telling people to stay at home and work from home, because their jobs are able, to fit that mold. If you look in India right now, there's literally a cover, I want to say it's either the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post, that said, the headline today was, for labor Indians, for Indians that work in the labor industry, stay-at-home order is an order to starve.
Yep.
And the fact of the matter is that, that one day we're going to look back and we're going to realize that we put a lot of people in a very tough spot. And it's not going to be clear.
And this is not going away. So we're just putting a Band-Aid on this. If either we figure this shit out now, or we're going to have to figure it out the next cycle. So this is not going to go away, right? So I honestly think that because we're doing this shutdown, we're not getting a realistic way to be able to handle this thing. Because if they're already saying it's cyclical, they're already saying, hey, it's going to be coming back and might come back again this season. So then what?
Well, I think there's the other piece of that is, obviously, if you look at pandemics in general, eventually what happens is people develop an immunity for it. They develop a vaccine for it.
Not the flu.
Well, the flu, they have a vaccine for it, and I mean, it mitigates.
People still die, right?
People don't always take the vaccine, and but I mean, the flu is baked into the cake. What the concern is going to be is that this is something that's going to wipe out 2% of the population. Well, 2% of 320 million people is 3.2 million people. That's a big number. Right. And so if that happens, that's going to have a tremendous economic effect just right down the line. Even if it's all old people, what is that going to do? All the nursing homes and all the people that work in the, I mean, like, there's all kinds of effects to that. But again, the problem is, where are we always going with this stuff? We're going to context. We're going back and saying, hey, let's look at the Black Plague. Let's look at all these other things that happened. What is everybody else doing? Oh my God, did you see what China did yesterday? Nobody's going for actual context of like, hey, guys, maybe we did this once or twice before. Maybe we've been through this and we can kind of project how this is going to go. And so, they've done a tremendous job. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just going to chime. It's the cost of people dying, even if it's all old people. And that same friend of mine that I'm trying to get on, he was, I was telling him some, crass jokes the other day. He was like, well, I hope you don't, I hope you're the old members of your family stay safe. And I'm like, they're all dead. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, I'm not. It's extremely convenient at this time. He said, yeah, he goes,
that's horrible.
He goes, I know you, man, you have a great heart, but gallows humor right now is at an all-time high, like that's, it's great to have that kind of sense of humor about it. So of course, not all the old people, my mom, is alive, and she's not inexpensive. So somebody Somebody the other day said that same thing. They're like, no, because have you thought of the economic cost? And just because I wanted to take his balls off in the argument, like I just didn't want
to take away his gun, right? That gun he's about to shoot you with. He wanted to take it out.
I said, I was like, actually, I've given it a lot of thought. And I got to tell you, I'm about to get a fucking raise.
Absolutely.
And he was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, fuck it, because if my mom checks out, man, trust me, that's a lot of beads staying on this side of the abacus. You know?
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
He was like, no, hey, he sobered up. His face got serious.
Like, what am I going to tell this moron now?
You need help, man. You need help, buddy. And there's something.
This guy will go anywhere to win an argument.
Like, yeah. I'm like, I know, man.
Hey, listen, let's talk about, before you got to go, Richard. I know you're inside a vehicle there, and you probably got to get out. Let's talk a little bit about the stimulus package, and what we think it's going to do to the economy. So if we're already talking about being shut down for a month, that's already written in stone, correct? We're looking at end of April.
End of April. So it's
end of April.
Basically 2 months
is the new stuff, right? Florida says mid-April, pretty much. Is that right?
Yeah. I think we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Right. Okay. So let's call it.
I think we'll see it all back off too.
Yeah. So let's say it's end of April there, right? So small businesses are already starting to get, within the next week or two, are going to start getting small influxes of money. There's going to be a total of, I think it's said and done, is $10 trillion that's going to be pumped into the economy?
Not said and done, but basically that's what it looks like it's going to be, at least, depending on whether the Federal Reserve takes and makes another move. I mean, right now we're at close to 7 with what they've done and with the stimulus package and with the other 2 bills that came out before that. So it appears that they are already talking about number 4, which the states are going to need bailout, because the states have been paying for a lot of this stuff too. A lot of the states can't afford it. So they're already talking about bailing out the states individually that have gone through this. So,
right, so that keeps on adding up and adding up and adding up. Yeah, so Ben Bernanke, every
and
once
the
in a while,
Kennedy Center might need a new wing too, so that's important.
Right, exactly. So Ben Bernanke, and every once in a while, I feel smart, when you kind of start seeing, because listen, man, I've been through 2001, I've been through 9/11, I've been through 2008. And now this one here, so you start getting some perspective on stuff. I'm not the young guy anymore, man. I was there when this happened and that happened.
I remember
right.
the days.
So I could tell you what 2008 feels like. I could tell you what 2001 feels like. I could tell you what those things are happening. So one thing that I realized was, hey, from my own opinion, from living through stuff, this is going to be a what they call a V-shaped recovery. We're gonna fucking crash, and we're gonna crash hard, and then it's gonna recover. It's gonna recover pretty damn fast, similar to what happened with 2001, where it's like, hey, the government had to start pumping money into the economy, had to get things up and running, and then we saw several years of stuff. So Ben Bernanke pretty much said it like that. I mean, he says we're not going into a recession, we're going into a depression, but we're gonna come out of it pretty damn quickly, and then we're gonna start seeing the benefits from all this stimulus package. So, Richard, have you seen anything on your end on what's your take on the? I know you deal with some pretty high level businessmen and everything. What are you hearing on the streets? What's your word on the streets?
Everybody getting in line for these fucking loans. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Whether they need it or not. Man. I think the stimulus packages are the right thing to do, both optically and practically. You'll see all of our stupid lefty friends now with the memes and the comments about how all the small government Republicans are getting in line for their stimulus checks because they're really socialists. And then, of course, the dumbasses on the right, they're going to say, oh, well, it's not your president, so make sure you return the check that Donald Trump sends you and all this kind of thing. And it's like, look, it's not socialism. It's not capitalism. Okay. It's desperation. So it's not socialism, because if the government prevents you from working, the least they could do is give you money, right? In socialism, they force you to work and take the money. Yeah. So it's not at all socialism. Okay. And the reality is that, Trump is everybody's president, whether they like it or not, and everybody needs the help, okay? Everybody needs the help, and so everybody should get in line, and they should benefit from the help the government's willing to give. I agree with you on the V-shape, so long as the the moment, like the downturn moment, the valley comes quickly enough.
Yes,
the
sir.
longer it takes to get the longer
The
it
more
takes
irreparable
to get down
damage
to the
we're gonna
valley,
make.
Well, I don't think any of the damage is irreparable, but I think like it would start to look more like a precipitous down curve into the valley and a more slight, like climbing a hill.
Yeah, the angle will be.
Well,
Right.
look, all you got to do is look at
becomes a
one
little
business.
bit what do they call it? Obtuse.
Yes.
The angle becomes a more obtuse triangle, right, on the way back, and so.
Well, look, it has to do with if you look at one small business. Let's look at let's call it a restaurant, because those are the ones. That's the ones right now. Restaurants, bars, and everything like that, right? So, how long can you keep these employees in furlough, right? How long can you keep them on a holding pattern for you to come back into business? I don't know the answer to that. Is it 1 month?
I used to own restaurants, man. I'm telling you, the margins on restaurants are super tight. Even if you're in a successful business, you're making less than 10% on your money typically.
Yeah. The bars where the money's at, right?
Bars do better. But even so, you know, your labor is such a huge cost. Food costs, all that food, whatever food they had, it's gone. It's spoiled. So all that inventory is shot.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you make up for that? I mean, you have to hope these loans are going to fit the bill, but you know, you've stopped all consumption for the most part, and so.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. So if that business stays closed for 1 or 2 months or 3 months, then what? That goes out of business, and those jobs go away. That's what I'm saying about irreparable. I'm not saying never be repaired, but it might take a year or 2 years for that shopping center to get a new tenant in there. Hopefully, it's a restaurant that'll cover that void, right? But man, it could be a year. It could be more.
Well, I mean, what's going to be interesting is
multiply that by thousands and thousands of businesses. You know,
the real estate capacity that we have is going to exceed what the demand is amongst commercial customers.
Let me tell you something. Commercial real estate is going to take a gigantic dump.
Sure.
Office.
Well,
space.
malls.
Well, now here's the thing with malls is that people still have to go and people like to go out.
Yes.
The thing is, if you think about it, Quest Workspaces, Regis, WeWork, these people, what they were missing prior to this pandemic is the ability to get rid of the stigma of not having an office.
Yeah.
No, and forget about working from home, about not having an office. So if you're one of these big firms, hey man, you have to have, like Brickell City Center, Ackerman, they got to have the word Ackerman on the side of Brickell City Center so that if you're driving down 95, you're looking at it. And so if you have money and problems, you're like, I got to hire Ackerman because they got their fucking name on the side of a building and each letter's 25 feet tall. But guess what? That just went away. Everybody just realized that the legal work gets done, the real estate gets work, everything gets done. Nobody gives a shit if you're in underwear or if you're in Tom Ford. So the reality of the matter is that I'm the first one to think of it. If it wasn't because my building is owned, by Rodney, I'd tell him, I'd be like, hey, I don't think we need this shit anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, we could do it like a conference room, bro, a round table at the Starbucks.
Right.
You know, that's what people want anyway. So, but anyway, I do got to jump, guys.
All right,
thanks for having me on again, buddy.
My pleasure,
We'll get you on our new one next week.
Good talking to you.
Be good.
Good talking to you, Richard.
And
Take
by
care.
the way, Cadillac was the nicer of the two. That other guy, bro, it was Cadillac and Ferrari, whatever the other guy's name was.
I don't know what you're talking about, but all right. What's he talking about? All right, later. So tell us a little bit about what is that going to do to the actual economy as far as inflation and all that kind of stuff like that?
All right,
what are the updates now? Because I mean, we've talked about this before, but what's today? Today is what? What's today's date?
All right, so today is the 31st of March.
Right.
And just another, let me start with the concept of this. The government has printed a significant amount of money. Is going to have to, the Federal Reserve has introduced $4 trillion to the economy. This makes money less scarce, and when things become less scarce, they become less valuable. If there's 3 of us in this room and there's only 2 bottles of water, we have to figure out who can pay the most to get the 2 bottles if we're all thirsty, right? But if there's 50 bottles of water in here, I'll give you a couple of my bottles, and it's not a big deal. Yeah. And so that's kind of the issue. Money has become less scarce, which means it's going to become less valuable. The people that get hurt, all right, so that's a bad thing and it's a good thing, all right? The people that get helped are people that own real estate. They do well because the real estate automatically appreciates to go up with the going down of the value of money. The real estate's value as in relates to someone's income, the proportion of that person's income that real estate is able to represent stays the same. So if money's become less valuable, this person's wages are going to have to go up so they can afford the same standard of living. That means if a third of their income represented a $100,000 house before, and now that represents a $200,000 house, well, that same $100,000 house before is now a $200,000 house, because that's how it always historically has worked. Those two things are tied together. But it's going to hurt people that are savers. People that have money in the bank, they're going to get killed, because the bank is going to give them 1/10 of 1/1,000,000th of 1%, whatever the hell it is the banks are giving.
So let's talk about a dollar. So a dollar. If you have a dollar today, after this inflation, after this is pumped into the economy, what's that dollar you think is going to be worth? I mean, obviously you're not going to know, but what do you think it'll be worth at the end of the year? That dollar that you have in the bank is now worth what? To put it in perspective,
Well, it's tough to say what it's going to be. I can tell you that to back this up, actually, we had this conversation in the last podcast, and to back this up, just I think day before yesterday, I saw an article that the dollar had its single biggest slide in value against foreign currencies that it ever has right after the stimulus plan was announced. And this is because people don't believe the dollars are going to be as valuable. The way that I usually do this when I teach is I talk about a can of Coke when I was a kid. I could buy that can of Coke for 50 cents. The same can of Coke from the same vending machine now is $1.50. What changed isn't the Coke. We agree that everything with the Coke is the same. But the money that I used to buy the Coke isn't as valuable. I used to be able to get away with 2 quarters. Now I need 6 of them to do the exact same job. So we're going to experience that, but in a shorter period of time. What you're probably looking at is probably instead of being the 2.5%, 3.5%, I mean, really it's been 2.5%, 3% inflation that we've been experiencing. It may go closer to something like 5 or 6%. Which means if your money is not making 5 or 6%,
you're losing money.
You're losing money. That's a big deal. Now, what the Federal Reserve typically will do to counteract that, once that starts happening, and once the economy is strong enough to take it, is they're going to start to raise interest rates, which is a detriment to real estate at that point, because now it's harder to borrow. It's more expensive to borrow money. But here's the thing, and this is one of the lines that I love. I heard it from somebody I taught a class, and the person came up to me, we were talking about this inflation thing, and he said to me, you know what the difference is between experiencing inflation and appreciation? It's ownership. If you own something, if I own cans of Coke and money became less valuable, I could sell those cans of Coke for the same amount of buying power I could have when I first bought them. If it was 50 cents 30 years ago, I could load it in a vending machine today and sell it for $1.50. That $1.50 will buy just what that 50 cents would before. The house does that. If you put your money in the bank, and I did the math, if I put my money in the bank 30 years ago for that 50 cents, I'd have 56 cents today, which means I used to be able to buy a whole can of Coke with my money, and now I can buy a third of a can of Coke. That's what the difference is between being in a bank or being in something like real estate, like gold, something like that is going to appreciate as the money itself becomes less valuable. Yeah. So there's only a handful of places that are a real true hedge against inflation, and real estate is one of those. So what the Federal Reserve has done also by injecting more money, by causing an inflationary situation or increasing what will be an inflationary situation, is they've taken a lot of the people that were upside down in their homes, still from 2008, there's still people that are there, and they've probably rectified that situation. Those folks are going to be okay. But once again, the other people that are going to get hurt are the people that are on fixed incomes. A grandma and grandpa that have, they get so much money. Will Social Security go up fast enough to keep pace with the cost of living? They say they make a cost of living adjustment, but it never seems like it's enough. Yeah. And the reality of it is
it's lagging behind a little bit.
It's lagging behind. And if it does that, now you go to a situation where, grandma and grandpa have to decide whether they can afford their prescriptions or their food. And that's, another situation where all of this staying at home has a real human toll to it as well. When you inflate a currency like this rapidly, which, I mean, I'm not expecting, a Venezuela type inflation, where it's several thousand% a year. I don't think the money's going to be half as valuable or anything like that. But you could experience, maybe as high as 8-10%. It could be. Through the 70s, you had a situation where you had not only inflation, but you had a stagnant economy. They called it stagflation. And the interest rates got up as high as 21% at one point in the early 80s.
And what I notice also is that, people always want to, look, I've been through 2008, as I'm very proud, and I'm going to repeat it 1,000 fucking times, all right? I'm a proud survivor of 2008. But what that shows you is that the books are always being rewritten. The rules are always being rewritten. Like this whole thing right now, we're going to look back, 2 years from now, go, oh, that's how we handled it. And we're going to maybe be more prepared for situation. But every single things just pop up out of nowhere that like this case, like 2008, where we just got to figure it out. And there's rules being rewritten as we go. So do we know what's going to happen right now? We could have a kind of a good idea. We could look back at history. History is always the best, way to tell the future, just looking back. But we're not going to know what's going to happen right now. We could kind of figure it out. What I go back to is just my gut feeling, because again, I've lived it and I know what this feels like, right? So 2008, it was zero. From one day to the next, we went from closing deals to producing zero. Now it's, things are happening. What's happening right now too, just to talk straight up real estate, we had a lot of demand, right? We had a lot of people and very little supply. Okay. So right now the demand has gone down. The supply, I don't see a lot of real estate going into the market right now. The people they're going to sell are holding off. So what you're seeing is the people that are on the street looking, they are very real. Mm-hmm. Those guys are very real. So it's less quantity. It's not everybody out there looking for a house. The people that are out there looking is because they have a fixed income. Their job's not going anywhere. Right. And they're buying. And they're still, from what I'm seeing, am I seeing cancellations? Yeah. I'm definitely seeing cancellations. There's people that have lost their jobs. There's people that are scared. There's people that I don't know. I've gotten a lot of I don't know what's going to happen and everything like that. But I've also gotten, man, I'm telling you, a surprising amount that I figured we were going to have more negative more cancellations and more people saying I don't know and all that kind of stuff than what we actually are. A lot less than what I thought it was going to be. So that's definitely a positive. And am I an economist? Am I a guy in Wall Street with fancy software? No. But guys, I don't think that's the guy we want to listen to right now. I think the guy we want to listen to the people on the ground. That's why I'm calling my buddies that own restaurants. I'm calling my buddies that own companies and go, what's going on? Tell me what you're seeing. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what are you going to do with your employees? I'm talking to people and hey, that lost their jobs or are in danger of losing their jobs. Right now, I want to hear boots on the ground type information than anything else, because what are we going to go to Wall Street and what are we going to go? We look at history. Okay, great. But what's happening right now? What are we seeing right now?
What is the actual human reaction to this?
Yeah. And banks, right? So what are banks doing? I'm still seeing banks closing deals, right? Yeah. They're still funding. One of my major concerns, and I think we've passed that storm already. I think if it didn't happen, it didn't happen, right? All banks closing down and for business, right? So that didn't happen like it happened in 2008. What I am seeing is some stuff on the secondary market, like those what they call the non-QM deals, the non-qualifying mortgages, like the specialty deals, like the bank statement programs and all that kind of stuff. Those guys are not funding the deals. The warehouse lines, they're telling them, hey, don't fund on your warehouse because I'm not going to buy it. So that type of stuff. But is that a big deal? Not really. Is it happening on a regular basis? Not really. You know what I'm saying? So
the one that I had come up the other day, and I still haven't got it rectified. In fact, it's one of my first phone calls when I get out of here, is the appraiser didn't want to go to the property.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And so, whereas the interesting thing is, it's a contingent deal. So the house that the seller is selling, they're buying another house.
So you got two deals.
I got two deals.
On one appraiser.
The one that they're buying, the appraiser went out there, no problem, no issue. The one that they're selling, can't get the appraiser out so far. So I have to take and check on that. Actually, that's one of the things that's on my list to do. But we actually had to do an extension in order to take and see how we were going to handle this. I can tell you this, from the general contracting business, I have not had one customer, not one, tell us, hey, don't send your guys out here to work on the project or anything like that. I think there's a lot more eye-rolling about this. Like, people are worried about this on the macro level, but like they really don't want it to mess with their actual life. Like, oh my gosh, this is such a big deal, but yeah, can you come finish our water heater, and would you mind putting in the thing that I am seeing in that business, though, is that people aren't letting us start new work. They want to see how this is going to settle out. So I have people that have agreed to contracts and everything like that. You know what? Hey, look, let's
not start yet, right?
Let's wait and see how this goes. With the other businesses, the property management business, and we're seeing a lot of tenants that are sitting there saying, "Hey, I've lost my job. How are we going to take and and deal with this.
Yeah, what's going to happen with those rents? What's going to happen? So how does this trickle down, right? So you own an apartment building with, call it 10 units, easy number to work with, right? 8 of those people are not paying rent. You still have to pay your mortgage.
So what you probably need to do as is apply for a small business loan. Hopefully you don't own it in your personal name. Hopefully you don't own a corporation's name.
Yeah.
You're going to need to take and let all of your tenants know how they can get stimulus money themselves, because that stimulus money is to help them pay you.
Yeah.
You take and work on a payment plan. That's what we're doing with our people, both on our association management business and our property management business, working out payment plans for people. And not saying you don't owe the money. We're going to waive late fees. You know, you do owe the money, but get it to us when you can.
Yeah, I'm also seeing associations on the rental end and on the real estate on the purchase end too. Like the actual association that approves either the tenants or the people buying the property. They're closed.
Yeah, well, that's because they look for any excuse not to do their job. They're volunteers, so they.
So we have one right now that the guy had already moved out. He had to leave his place. So he's calling now saying, "Hey, I'm like out of a truck right now. I'm living in my truck right now. I need you guys to get me in." Association president is being a huge pain in the ass. He's not doing what he's supposed to do. He's blaming the whole thing on the quarantine. But dude, you could do everything on There's no reason you have to go to the office.
It does not require you to put on pants to approve.
It just doesn't.
You can get on an email chain and make it happen.
I had another one of a seller saying, I can't have my clients sign the release and cancellation because they're being quarantined. I'm like, because they're older people. Dude, like, leave it outside their house. Okay, spray it with Lysol. Sign it. I'll go pick it up again in a fucking hazmat suit. So what's happening also is, like anything else in the human nature, they're finding the lazy sons of bitches out there are just using this as an excuse. And maybe my stance would be dramatically different if I didn't see. So maybe my whole stance on, guys, we should, do what we did through World War II and World War I, and we should barrel through this and stand together, and no more politics, no more, right and left, and no more anything. And press, guys, you guys got to take it easy. We're all in this together. We're not gonna do anything for clicks. Like, everybody work together. Maybe my stance would be different if we all work together, and if people didn't lie and everything like that. But it's human nature, so. And we're not only are we the cause of it, literally and figuratively, but I think we're making it worse as a society. The way our society is right now, I think we're making it worse. We're making it worse than what it is. Let me tell you another example, right? If you're constantly 24 hours a day bombarding people with this and scaring the living shit out of them,
sure,
they're filling up the hospitals with people that don't have anything, okay? And you're not giving enough space for the people that do have it, right? So would we be recovering faster if this wasn't the case? Probably. Would my stance be different? Probably. So it's like we're like caught in some weird cycle right now. We're just making it worse, and the worse it gets, and I don't see a solution to it, But my gut feeling is, and again, I know it's not a popular stance. I mean, well, it's actually 50-50, so.
It's less than that. It's not, you have a third that think one way, a third that think the other way, and a third in the middle that have no idea what the hell they think.
Yeah, I got people that are in the middle. That's definitely, but I'm seeing within my friends and people that I know and the people that I'm calling, just, hey, what's going on with you? It's pretty damn split in the middle, where hey, we got to barrel through. I can tell you what, almost 100% of business owners are like, we got to barrel through this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
We don't have a choice as business owners.
And I think it has a lot to do with the circumstances, right? So if you're working in a place and you got fired, you're probably saying, hey, let's get the country turned back on, right? If you're in a place that is sending you home paid leave, and you can sit in your underwear, damn right, dude. How long is this gonna last? Please, I want another 2-month vacation. You know what I mean? So look, there's a lot of positive things to it too, and I don't. We should mention some of this positive stuff aside from the stimulus package and recovering and everything. I love the fact that look, kids are doing stuff virtually now. Our business, where we would have to like pull teeth to meet with clients online and stuff like that. This is almost a 2-month training course on everybody to learn how to operate on video chats and everything like that. So I think our business is going to get a lot better. Our business is going to get a lot more fluid. I think we're going to be able to meet with clients that maybe say, hey, I'll meet you in 3 days at the office. No, let's meet tonight online. You know, and I think that's going to trickle down and make our business and every business more effective. And I've been up, on my realtors' butts for seems like what, 2 years now, maybe. You know, just telling them, guys, use the video chat. I even pay for them. I got a corporate account so that they could use it for free. How many are using it? None, I would say, unless I'm involved in it, and unless the company is making them do it for a class or anything like that. None of them are using it to meet with clients. So I hope that changes, because that's going to make it a lot more efficient. Dude, it's better for another winner has been the economy, right? I mean, not the economy, the environment. The environment. I mean, so people are staying home, less carbon dioxide, less less even boats. I mean, fish are having a field day right now. They're out there, nobody's throwing hooks in the water. You know, there's a lot of stuff. You know, so
the fish are on furlough too.
Dude, beaches are getting clean. I mean, this is gonna be a nice little cleanse. You know, so look, it's not all bad.
No, I mean, look, the FDA has really loosened their guidelines. There's been a lot of things where we've gone back to, in some ways, being kind of what we were, like, okay, this is the problem, let's get shit done. I mean, as I said, I mean, if you want a book to make you feel good about being American, read about the things that Ford and General Motors did in World War II, where they just stopped making everything and they said, all right, we're making this. And they found ways to do it that nobody dreamed was possible, to do it faster and better than anybody was doing it. Even the people that were in that business couldn't do it as well as they did it. And so, you know, there's something good and inspirational about that. I think that we're kind of lucky in the sense that despite the fact that lots of people hate him, the guy in the White House is a huge pragmatist. He's going to take and try to do whatever is practical and makes the most sense to as large an extent as possible. And he's just looking to take and try to get through this, because he understands, more so than most politicians do, the economic impact. As a business owner, he understands that there's an economic cost to this and what it does to real people, I think.
Yeah, look, and you know, one thing I don't want to include in this podcast ever is politics and religion. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their own way to do it, and you know, Cadillac and I talk about politics and religion on a regular basis. We're friends, and that we disagree on some of the stuff, you know, but man, I'm a common sense guy. I've never been either a Republican or a Democrat. I am who I think is better for, you know, I was an Obama guy. I was a Clinton guy. I wasn't a Bush guy.
Yeah,
I was not a Bush guy. I was not a Bush guy. Man, that was a tough time for me. You know what I'm saying? When I would see,
well, you've been doing pretty well then.
So Trump, yeah, you know, it's some stuff I disagree with. I mean, on the environment and stuff like that. I mean, there's a million things, but there's some things that just makes sense to me. You know, I think the United States is a business. I just sincerely do. It's a business, and it's being proven right now. Shut airplanes down, shut small businesses down, and we're gonna see how much of a business it is, and how long can that business stay closed? I don't know. Are we just like a single mom right now? We're kind of check to check as far as the country. We got a lot of debt.
Oh,
okay.
Tremendous.
Can we? How long can we afford to be shut down? I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. But guys, it ain't forever.
Yeah,
it ain't forever, right? And us, you know, closing it down now, when we maybe potentially possibly don't need it. You know, is that going to affect us if we got to go to a war in the next 6 months or in the next anything? So are we eating up into reserves that we might need for something else? Can we, by opening up 45 of the states, right, and leaving the rest closed, right, is that going to save us some money that we might need for later on? We might need for infrastructure. We might need for all that stuff. So again, I'm not really on one side of it.
What you're looking for is a balanced reaction, as opposed to an overreaction, because the reality of it is an overreaction, which I think, looking at this thing, most people would say in some ways, you know, West Virginia, I think, has 1 case or 4. You know, do they really need to be shut down right now? Could we not get a hold of those 4 people? And, you know, somebody said to me, North Korea had their first case at 11:05. At 11:06, they had no cases.
No cases. I saw that.
I mean, it was funny, but I'm not suggesting that. But, you know, understand this. We're so quick to overreact. there is a price to overreaction, and it is a real human cost.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, I don't know how long. It seems like about an hour, right? Hour and 15 minutes. Yeah. All right. So, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, today's going to be, we talked about this, talked about the economy, talked about coronavirus, because we just have to, guys. All right. Trust me, I'm happy to jump in here one day and be able to ignore it. I think the next time we might just have to. I mean, we might just have to ignore the hell out of it. But either way, our next, so in this podcast here, the next thing you're going to hear now, so I'm going to like basically hand it off, and it's going to be that insurance talk that we had the other day. The audio is a little bit off. Ariel, since we're going to just hand it off, we could just cut it where he starts talking and then end it where he stops talking about insurance. So it could be like a probably 30-minute clip or something like that. So the tail end of this podcast today is going to end up with insurance. So just to give you a little bit of a brief rundown on that, and I know I talked a little bit up in the beginning of the podcast, but guys, my job is to, train realtors on a regular basis. I've been doing that a long time. Since 2001, I've been doing it, where I train realtors, where I got to figure out what they know, how they know. I need to figure out what they need to know in order to be successful realtors, which then in turn makes my company successful. So all I do when I wake up in the morning is, how do I make realtors better? Insurance was not on my radar at all. It just wasn't. Maybe I'm stupid, or maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention, but it wasn't something. Mortgage guys would deal with that a lot more, than I would. It was more in that part, in the debt to income ratios and working those numbers out and everything like that. Right now, I'm educating my realtors on the insurance part. I've created an alliance with Insurance Nation and Umberto to really have them understand this insurance thing, because the number has doubled. Also, we're going to talk about which is very cool, how old the house is, right? Based on, a 1950s house, might cost $10,000. Just to give you a number, I think we talk about it in detail. A 1980 something house would be, $5,000, and no, the other way around, right?
No, you're right.
Yeah, and then the brand new, anything 1997 and newer, is like $2,500, just to throw a number. I mean, it's that much of a difference. It almost cuts in half the younger the property gets, the more updated the property gets. So yeah, you fucking need to know that. If you're showing a property, there might be a property right across the street that's brand new, and then one across that's 1950, hasn't been remodeled, right? Oh, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. The monthly payments are going to change drastically.
Hundreds of dollars a month.
Let's call it, if we call it $500 a month, that's $500 more worth of properties property that you can buy, right? And that means, $500 means what? 80 grand, 90 grand more. Yeah, you could actually do the actual math, Cadillac, based on, I don't know what, a 3.75 rate, So, it makes a difference. So if you have another $500 a month that you could spend on a house,
$107,000.
So for those $500, you could buy another $100,000 worth of real estate. So, man, when you're from a $300,000 house to a $400,000 house, huge difference. From 100 to 200, it's either from nothing or buy something. 200 to 300 might take you from a condo to a house.
Yep.
Right. So those are the things that you guys. That's why it's important to know that. So it's no longer the thing that you would worry about at the end of the tail end of the transaction, and just don't even worry about it as a realtor, because let the mortgage brokers do it. They're the number cruncher guys, right? No, it's stuff that you need to have conscious right now and understand what you're going to show the client. You're going to have to understand, even when pricing a home, you need to know what the insurance it's going to be. You need to know people are going to, if you're selling a house, interest rates are a certain amount, you know it's at a certain price range. You need to figure out what, it's maybe not pricing, now that I'm thinking about it. Pricing is based on comparables and stuff like that. But either way, it's good to know. I went somewhere and I went back to
it matters a whole lot, because at the end of the day, what you want is a happy customer. And so if you have this insight to the fact that how much they can buy changes based upon the year built of the house, you're saying something different than the competitors, than the other 5 buyers agents that they're working with. And so it brings some good value. It brings a different kind of conversation to the customer, makes them aware of something, and it makes them want to be more loyal to you. They want to work with you because you know stuff that the other guy doesn't. And so I thought it was really helpful. I didn't realize the discrepancy was so much. And when interest rates are this low, it makes a huge difference Huge difference, a few $100s one way or the other is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, if you can get your customer into a newer house with a similar price, even a higher price, but their overall payment is lower, I'm sorry, you're getting Christmas cards from those folks. You're their hero.
All right, guys. All right, I'll see you on the next podcast. We're gonna try to start pumping these out a little bit more regularly. We're still trying to figure things out a little bit. Like I said, we experimented with that other one the other day. Actually, I didn't listen to Leo on. He specifically told me don't do it. I said, nah, man, we're gonna do it. And first thing I said was, hey, to Ariel, hey, tell your brother he was right. We fucked it up real nice. The audio was horrendous. There was all kinds of echoes and all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't even use it. You might we'll be able to cut out the we'll be able to cut out just the insurance part and just add it on. All right, guys. So enjoy the insurance part. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you. Huh? All right, yeah. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcast. We're on what else? Stitcher? Yeah. Never heard of that one. Look at that. These kids nowadays. Stitcher. Check our website. Yeah. So our website has everything. We'll leave a link on there, but yeah, we're on everything. It's pretty safe to say. So whatever the hell you guys listen to podcasts on, we're on. I'm an Apple guy myself because I think the iPhone is a superior handheld device. But I know you got Samsung.
Wow,
guys.
I thought we were going to stay with controversial topics. Now you pissed off half the people that we didn't piss off.
Right. No, there's some happy people that I pissed off with the whole phone thing. They agree with me on the whole shutdown thing, but no, I lost them on the.
You just got canceled.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Listen, man. You know what? 2 minutes on the Samsung thing. What happens is that with these Samsung guys, all right, 90% of the world has iPhones. So then you got these morons that have the Samsung. I shouldn't call it. You're nice people that just haven't figured out the whole phone thing yet, right? So what happens is you for work purposes or for anything you want to send a video or you want to send a video is a perfect example. So I had a buddy of mine who's hardhead. I'm like, dude, just please switch to actually he's my dear friend, but he's also my son's wrestling coach. So we're always sending videos to each other, but when he sends me a video, it comes out tiny. You can't see it. I send it to him. He can't see it. So he never realized that. Like I was telling him, dude, so you got to send it through WhatsApp. Now you got to use another app. So he sent it to me one day and I did it in front of him. I'm like, look, I want you to see what happens. Like, so you understand what you're doing. Another guy's Jay, our mortgage guy. He finally said, well, once I finish paying this phone or something like that, he already agreed to change because he saw what happens. Like I don't know if they do it on purpose or not, but they don't communicate correctly. Like things don't happen correctly. So yeah, Samsung guys, please, it's a time right now with this everything that's going on. You got a chance to think about this. Plenty of time at home
to confess your sins. Yeah, and make peace with the phone gods.
Stop holding on to it. It's like these guys that were holding on to the BlackBerry. Just switch to iPhone, please. All right, guys. Hey, enjoy the insurance part. That's gonna start now. Umberto, so tell me, man. Am I right that insurance premiums have doubled in the last 5 years? Is that fair to say?
I would not say double, but they definitely have increased significant. They're bigger discounts for newer construction. There are huge discounts for newer construction, and there's a surcharge for older constructions. Jesus, I think that what the companies are trying to do as much as they can, is for the property owner to have some conscience, in this case, about how to protect their homes unconsciously. In this case, because unconsciously they're telling you, hey, if you put the impact windows or you put accordions or you put shutters, which by the way, a lot of people think that in order for you to get the maximum discount, it has to be impact windows, and that's incorrect. The only discount or the only thing that you could protect your home with that doesn't give you that discount is if you put plywood. But if you put metal accordions or the panels, metal panels, in this case, aluminum panels, or you put accordions, the discount is the same. The discount will be the same.
As impact. It's the same as impact. So as long as you can show proof that you have the metal shutters,
yes,
or the actual closing shutters, yes, or impact windows, it's the same.
The discount will be the same. And what the insurance company is trying to do educate the consumer, like letting you know, listen, if you help me minimize my losses, okay, I'm going to transfer those discounts over to you. So we're talking in some cases that discounts are significant. They're in the hundreds, and in some cases in the thousands in this case. And which, by the way, now I hear the echo in the back. It is fucking annoying. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm not crazy.
Going back to what we're discussing about, the insurance companies are really trying to, through discounts, to educate the consumer. Okay, through discounts like put impact windows, put short accordions, put metal panels, whatever in this case. But protect your property, and by doing so, here you go. I'm going to give you this discount. Remember that the code of construction and the code of construction, like anything else, has been updated throughout the years. I recall back, if my memory doesn't fail me, I believe that it was back in 1997. Back in 1997, when the properties, since 1997, every property that was getting a CO needed to come with accordions, panels, or impact windows. So any property prior to 1997, if you had it, was because usually it was a custom home. The consumer actually did it because they wanted to, but not because they were obligated to do so. Okay. So the insurance company said, okay, as of 1997, we're going to create what's called a wind mitigation formula. In this case, built into this homeowners policies, which we're going to incentivize the property owner that brings their homes up to code. Okay, and just along with that, it was not only the windows that made an impact, it was also the plumbing. And then following that, it was not only the windows and the plumbing, it was the electrical. And to finish it off, in this case, now we're talking about roofs. Okay, roofs is a huge issue right now, at this point. Okay, and the problem why is because a lot of customers, they have the standard normal wear and tear filtration through damaged roofs, the window ceilings, doors, etc., and they're automatically blaming the insurance companies, or they're trying for the insurance company to assume responsibility. And what they're expecting in this case for the insurance company is to replace those roofs, in this case on their behalf. And all these litigations, in this case, that we are facing in today's world, is where have really taken a huge increase, in this case, in premiums, in this case on our homeowners policy in the South Florida market.
So are we okay? Because right now we're all South Florida guys, right? And that's the world we live in. Okay.
Okay.
So does that mean that somebody in Wisconsin,
yes,
for the same size house,
yes,
same construction, same everything,
yes,
identical house, pays considerably less than we do?
Considerably less? No, it's ridiculously
it's like 1/10. It's like 1/10.
Usually, like the amount of money that you pay into your homeowners insurance policies in taxes and fees, that is the cost of the insurance policies over there. Okay, so let's forget about the rest. And not only, and this is another thing, Jesus, and kind of like that I have a personal problem with, being in the industry and this being what I specialize on. Imagine in the position that I find myself as an insurance agent, that I have to explain to our customers, okay, I have to educate our customers about this huge increase in premiums, right? This huge brutal increase, like you said, almost double the premium, triple the premium, in this case, to what it was, in this case, 5-7 years ago. But not only that I have to explain to you the increase in premiums, Cadillac, but I also have to explain to you that the new policy, even though you're paying double the premium or almost double the premium, that you also have more exclusions. Okay, you have also more exclusions.
You're paying more, but less is covered.
Yes,
less is covered.
Less is
your deductible higher.
And that is huge. Like right now, one of the biggest downfall in the homeowners market is water damage. Okay, the amount of insurance companies that have adopted the water damage exclusion of sublimits is huge. So you probably have a homeowners policy today that has a water damage exclusion or a water damage limitation. okay, an aggregate for water damage claims without even knowing about it. So now you have a pipe, okay, a pipe that burst, in this case, under the kitchen floor, and now you need to replace your kitchen floor, you need to replace your kitchen cabinets, along with that, in this case, all the debris, construction, and Cadillac. In assessing those losses, it could go into the thousands of dollars, and you might find the traditional policy out there might only give you a $10,000 sublimit for water damage. So everything else would need to be paid out of pocket. Okay, would be paid out of pocket. A basic kitchen, lifting the floor, fixing the plumbing issue, labor, material, stuff like that, it's a very easy $20,000, $30,000 claim in today's market. And the insurance company will only give you $10,000. In the base case scenario, they will give you 10. In the worst case scenario, you probably have an exclusion. And why do you have exclusions? Jesus, you know that at the beginning of the conversation. It's just the increase in premiums are so brutal that the customers are trying to do everything possible to lower the insurance rates.
So the customer is the one that started saying, well, okay, I'll pay this, but then don't count me, don't discount. I mean, discount this or discount that. They've created this template.
Yes,
basically.
Yes, because what happens is that their financials are only set to so much, right? So they want to pay $4,000 of insurance, okay, and the traditional homeowner's policy that includes the fire, includes the wind, includes the vandalism, includes personal property or the structures, includes liability, doesn't have a sublimit for water damage. That policy in today's market probably might be $7,000. Okay, and he just simply says, Humberto, I understand, but I cannot pay $7,000. I cannot afford to pay $7,000. What are my options? Well, you have option B. Option B in this case is a policy that you don't have personal property. You don't have coverage for other structures. So in the event you have a gazebo, fences, detached pools, etc., none of the stuff is going to be covered.
It'll only cover the important stuff, the actual house.
It will only cover the actual shell, the improvements and betterments of that shell against fire, in this case, wind, and obviously water damage. When I mean water damage, when I mean water damage, Jesus, I'm not talking about flood, okay? I'm not talking about flood, and a lot of people understand that. Okay?
A sink burst or a pipe burst or something.
Exactly. There you go. That's water damage. That is what we consider to be water damage into an HO policy. So, and that might be option B, but that option B might still not be at the $4,000 that the customer wants to pay. So now, what is the option to get it to option C, which is the $4,000 in premium?
And hold on for a second. So option C, the only reason we're in option C, because if they had an option to not insure it, they would not insure it. But the reason why we have to go through those options is because the bank requires insurance.
That is correct. So 100%.
If they would be like, listen, just don't insure it. I'll figure it out and I'll deal with it when I deal with it.
One thing that the banks, you need to understand that one thing that the banks are concerned about, or the banks wants you to have, in this case, in your homeowner's policy, is protection against three things, okay? A, liability to third parties, fire, and wind, okay? And if you're in the flood zone, it's considered to be in the flood zone, which the whole South Florida market is not flood zone, but if you're considered to be in a high risk flood zone, okay, because okay,
but let's talk about that. What is, okay, so you're right, South Florida, all of almost Florida, I think there's one little part in the middle up north that has high elevation. I forgot the name of it, right? It's the highest elevation in Florida. But aside from that, we're all in a flood zone. So what's the difference between a regular flood zone and a high risk flood zone? Is there an actual number to it?
Listen, there's something called a LOMA letter, okay, a letter of map revision, that there's a map in this case that FEMA every so often they evaluate their properties that tend to fall into a flood zone and property that tends to get out of the flood zone. Okay, the crazy thing, maybe within your community, you might have a couple of blocks within your community that might be on the flood zone, and a couple of other blocks that might not be on the flood zone.
Your neighbor might be in it, and you might not be.
That is correct. We have community associations. We have associations, homeowners and condo associations that we insure today. The 30% of the condo association is on the flood zone and the other 70% is not. You know.
Yeah, and by the way, I didn't give up because of the
directors. Huh?
Yeah, because of the technical issues, I didn't properly introduce Humberto, right? So Humberto is extremely what I consider a black belt in insurance, not only because he's been in insurance for a very long time, but has a huge company that does homeowners, car, commercial. They do a lot of homeowners associations. So, you know, look, this is my authority in insurance, and he's a guy who, you know, it's rare he doesn't have an answer, but if he doesn't, he'll figure it out in 2 seconds. So yeah, this guy is solid black belt.